Live NFL trivia every Tuesday night on Twitch at 10 p.m. Eastern. Come show off your football knowledge and have a chance to win cash prizes. Check the link in the description to find out more. And now, on with our feature presentation. 1 year ago, I made this video about the NFL's bizarre tackle rule. That video is in the upper right corner. And seeing as the video is still one of my most popular in terms of views, and seeing as we only scratched the surface with the plays featured, I feel like now is the perfect time to make a sequel. Back in the 1950s, the NFL had a much different tackling rule than what exists today. Under the rules in 1955, the ball was immediately dead when the ball carrier touches the ground with any part of his body except his hands or feet while in the grasp of an opponent. In other words, it was a lot like rugby. If you got down but could get back up again, you weren't down. Only if you were kept down was it a tackle. In a lot of ways, this rule used to make sense. For one, the game of football had tons of similarities to rugby in the early days. There used to be a time where the forward pass, much like in rugby, was illegal. So it made sense that there would be some holdover rules between the two sports. And number two, it made the job of the referees a lot easier. There was no instant replay back in the 50s. Television coverage was minimal and localized. There were no giant video boards to look up at. The yard markings on the field were often minimal at best. Determining whether a player was down by contact, whether he got touched down, where he was spotted, or anything along those lines is tough today. But it would have been especially tough in the early days given the circumstances. This rule made it simple. Could the player move after hitting the ground? Did the player have any freedom? Or was he stuck there? If it was the former, it's not a tackle. If it's the latter, it is a tackle, and the play is dead. So with that context out of the way, let's see some more of these plays in action. This time, all of our footage is coming from the 1954 season. We're going to start naturally on opening day, and head to this opening day matchup between the Green Bay Packers and the Pittsburgh Steelers. This is the first drive of the season, and it's a heck of a start for Green Bay, as Breezy Reed runs it in for a very nice 69-yard touchdown. Reed played 7 seasons in the NFL, all with Green Bay, and this run right here was the longest run of his career. But you see where these rules come into play. It's a heck of a play by eventual Hall of Fame defensive back Jack Butler to chase him down. And under today's rules, he would have been rewarded for his efforts, because Reed is clearly down at the 2-yard line. But Butler did not have Reed in his grasp, so Reed was able to roll into the end zone for the touchdown. Here's one from that same week of games that didn't result in a touchdown, but resulted in some nice yardage after the fact. Opening day of the 1954 season yet again between the Chicago Bears and the Detroit Lions. Second quarter in a 10-10 ball game, and George Blanda is in at quarterback. He finds Harlan Hill in what was Hill's first ever game. Now Hill would make an immediate impact in this league, leading the league in receiving touchdowns that year, and making it to the Pro Bowl in each of his first 3 years. And with plays like this, it's not hard to see why. It is a beautiful catch over defensive back Carl Karlovitz. Under today's rules, this play is down at the 27-yard line. But Hill is able to get up, and he keeps running before he steps out of bounds right at about the 16-yard line. He gets about 10 extra yards because Karlovitz was not able to keep him in his grasp. Amazingly enough, there is some footage from the preseason that year to illustrate this point a bit further. Here's a preseason game in San Francisco between the Browns and the 49ers. Y.A. Tittle was one of the best quarterbacks of his era, and even though it's the preseason, plays like this are exactly why. He evades the Cleveland pass rusher beautifully, then decides to take off and run, turn the corner right at about the number, and gets into the end zone for the touchdown. If you watch the replay though, look at where Tittle went down. His butt touches the ground right between the 1 and the 2-yard line, but he's able to roll in and get the touchdown, because Cleveland did not have him in his grasp. Plays like this run though, are why you can see how the rule makes some sense, because there are no yard markings on that field outside of the ones every 5 yards. If you did it the other way, it would almost devolve into a guessing game of sorts in determining where to spot it. Let's go back to the regular season and head over to Halloween 1954 for this next play. It's the Los Angeles Rams against the Detroit Lions, and Skeets Quinlan is in on the carry. He had a great year for the Rams, as he made it to the first and only Pro Bowl of his career that season, with this 23-yard run being one of his longest runs of the year. Under today's rules, this is a gain of 6, but because he got up, he was able to get 17 extra yards and make it down to Detroit's 39-yard line. I'm impressed by this run, not just because he was able to get up and keep going, but because he never went out of bounds. During that whole process, he was dangerously close to the sideline, and maybe it's because we don't have an angle of it, but he was able to keep his balance and stay in the field of play. Impressive stuff right there. Now let's travel to Pittsburgh on October 17, 1954 for this one. Cleveland Browns taking on the Pittsburgh Steelers, and Cleveland decides to try a little bit of trickeration here. Ray Renfro made 3 Pro Bowls as a receiver for the Browns, but threw a few trick passes every now and then. This was the only interception he ever threw in his career, and it's a horrible throw. Ed Kissel picks it off, and he gets brought to the ground by Pete Brewster on the tackle. Under today's rules, Pittsburgh gets the ball at the 40-yard line. But under the rules of 1954, he's able to get 9 more yards out of the return. Here's another one from a different game between the Browns and the Steelers, this time coming on the final day of the regular season on December 12th. The Browns would dominate this one, winning by a final score of 42-7, and this was one of Cleveland's 6 touchdowns. Rookie running back Chet Hanulak found the end zone 3 times in the first half. He had 4 touchdowns in the rest of his career combined. This touchdown was from 8 yards out, although under today's rules, this one would not count, as he was brought down at roughly the 2-yard line by Burrell Shields. Under the rules in 1954 though, he was able to just roll into the end zone and score. And to end this video, let's end it naturally with the NFL championship between the Cleveland Browns and the Detroit Lions. Cleveland was in total command of this game, winning it 56-10. Here was one of their 8 touchdowns. Hall of Fame quarterback Otto Graham found eventual 2-time Pro Bowl wideout Pete Brewster on this 8-yard touchdown pass late in the first quarter to give the Browns a 14-3 lead. But he's clearly down at the 2-yard line. There are 2 Lion defenders around him as he gets plopped to the ground. Brewster is able to get back up though, and wills his way into the end zone for the touchdown. Side note, I made another video about a different Browns-Lions championship if you want to check that out in the upper right corner. This is not one of those rules that's going to be coming back anytime soon. There's already tons of controversy around what constitutes being in the grasp with regards to a quarterback. And after that controversial rule was in place during the 1980s, I can't see the league bringing it back. Plus, there is a safety concern that a player is down until he's truly down. It could lead to a lot of injuries when a player tries to get back up and doesn't notice a defender around him, or when a player just wants to stay down. And players hate getting tackled low more than anything else. And this rule seems to encourage that. So if you don't like this rule, you're in luck, because I don't think you have to worry about Roger Goodell and the Rules Committee putting this one in place anytime soon. Either way, it's fascinating how much of the game has evolved, because these rules are nothing like the ones we have today. Be sure to check out Twitch every Tuesday night at 10 p.m. Eastern for your chance to play NFL trivia and win cash prizes. Link in the description below. Also, special thanks to all of our Patreon supporters for helping out the channel. Your support is greatly appreciated. See how you can become a patron and request future video topics in the description below.